Orleans Saints podcast, presented by Rouse's Markets. You'll hear from players, coaches, broadcasters, and writers that cover the NFL daily. The New Orleans Saints podcast starts right now. Here are your hosts, Erin Summers and Todd Graffagnini.
Welcome into the New Orleans Saints podcast. I'm Erin Summers alongside Todd Graffagnini, brought to you by Rouse's Markets. Out here, sunny, breezy California. Another practice in Irvine. It's practice day 14 for the Saints, and the third one out here in Southern California. Tuesday, so first day back on the field after their game on Sunday against the Chargers. Todd, it seemed like they were going at it pretty hard today. A lot of tackling, a lot of good team drills, teamwork. What stood out to you in today's practice?
Yeah, it was good to, like you said, get back out here again after the day off yesterday, after the tough game on Sunday. And what stood out to me, Erin, was Brandon Staley, the Saints defensive coordinator, starting to dial it up a little bit. He's, you're supposed to play vanilla football during training camp and especially in the preseason games, but that was not the case today for this defense, who just continually brought pressure from the backfield. We saw a number of corner blitzes, safety blitzes, and a boatload of sacks, as we pretty much documented. So it was one of those days where I think Brandon Staley said, I got to start dialing things up here. That's the one thing. And the other thing, of course, unfortunately, we got to talk about who was not here today, because it's just, you go through 2 weeks of camp and you go through all the heat and humidity of New Orleans with barely any players missing practices at all. And you come out here and you have a pretty clean week, and then you play the game and 4 guys go down, and we turned out a couple of them were pretty serious. So, again, that's part of it. But today was the day that the injury bug really bit.
Yeah, it was unfortunate to hear today that Will Clapp was put on season-ending injured reserve, as well as Mason Plime. He was waived. He had an injury designation as well. So those 2 players no longer will be with the team for the remainder of the season. Trevor Penning, though, good news. He's going to be out just a little bit with a foot injury. Doesn't seem like anything serious there. Bub Means dealing with an ankle. And then we did see Devin Neal and JT Gray working back on the field again today on the side. So that's good news, especially because Neal was dealing with a hamstring, and it seems like it might be a little bit longer before he got back on the field. The other injury that came out today was Alontae Taylor is dealing with a groin injury, was not at practice today, and head coach Kellen Moore said it's going to be a little bit for him as well. So unfortunate news there. We did see somebody else working in at that star position today, and it was somebody who is familiar with Brandon Staley's system, Terrell Burgess, who stood out.
Well, look, and we were talking about on the side, the thing about Alontae is, we talked about in this defense, the star position is really the key to the whole thing. And I remember when I did my interview a week ago with Terry Joseph, I was just singing Alontae Taylor's praises because of his versatility. I'm just, he's going to have a huge year. Very well could have a good year, Erin, but he got hurt evidently towards the end of that scrimmage on Friday out here in Irvine and did not dress for the game. And then Kellen Moore mentioned today that he's going to be out for a little bit. Now, good news is it's not season ending, but that's a big piece of the defense. It's not going to be in there, at least for the first portion of the regular season. But to have a guy like Burgess able to step right in, because, look, he played Alontae Taylor's position today in the slot, and he did a good job. He actually got credited for a sack at one point. So, again, going back to the defensive backfield blitzes that we saw all during practice. But look, Burgess is going to have to pick up the slack for at least the time being.
And he is familiar with that Staley scheme, which helps. He was drafted by the Rams in 2020, so that already gives a level of comfortability between your defensive coordinator and that player there. And I know he's been working his way to get back onto the field a full time as a starter, so it's a good opportunity for him, and he did play extremely well today. There were several sacks. Yes. I want to say double digit, because close. Fadil Diggs was out there. He had 2 again. He had a sack in Sunday's game, 3 in the scrimmage on Friday, so he's somebody, a rookie, that continues to pop out there on the field. Pete Warner had a great day. Yep. He had a sack. He had a strip forced fumble, I believe, later in practice as well. And then other people like Jaden Price popped. He had a sack. DeMarco Jackson had one later, and Ugo Amadi had a sack. He also had a hand on a ball. It still made it into the wide receiver's hands, but good for them to be getting those deflections, getting across the line. As you mentioned it, Staley was sending the house today, and it was really fun to watch, blitzing from everywhere.
Yeah, I think it was also fitting that the game ended on an interception. Spencer Rattler, just watching, had a pretty tough day, and he was able to regroup and get on the final drive, right before the end of practice, because you knew the time was running out, and he actually took the team on a 15-play drive and was looking to punch it in and get some points, and he throws a slant to Dante Pettis. It goes right through Pettis' hands. It pops up in the air, and there was Julian Blackman to pick it off. And again, it was kind of a fitting way for the day to end with the defense getting the upper hand. But Tyler Shuck had a big drive today. He continues to improve each and every practice, it appears.
Yeah, it was a 12-play drive, 65 yards, and ended with a 5-yard touchdown handoff to Alvin Kamara. So that was good to see him get into the end zone. The only player, I think, then Ike got in earlier in the game, earlier in the day too.
First actual 11-on-11 rep. It was just one of those, start the day off with a handoff to Alvin Kamara, and boom, bust right through the side on the right, and big hole, and he was gone. If they would have played it out, it would have been a touchdown run. But, it's just interesting because he obviously didn't play on Sunday. He's like, we still do have that guy back there, and he is able to break a big one every time he touches the ball.
Yeah, that ended up being a 75-yard touchdown run for Alvin Kamara. He is great to have on your side. And, we didn't see him Sunday, so you can't forget about the threat that you have there. There were a lot of starters that we didn't see on Sunday, too. It was a good opportunity for a lot of players to get in. Torricelli Simpkins, again, he worked in as the backup center behind Eric McCoy after going nearly the entire game on Sunday. Then there's going to be some movement along the offensive line with that injury to Trevor Penning right now. It was Dylan Radins who filled in for him at that left guard position today, and we'll see how things progress going forward.
Well, again, versatility, and this was a guy in Radins who played a lot of tackle in the preseason game against the Chargers, but now with Penning out for at least a couple of weeks, Radins is going to have to step in there. So, and you talked about, and we really should have given a shout out on Sunday after the game in our pod to Torricelli Simpkins. The guy came in at the second play when Will Clapp got hurt and played the entire ball game at center. And this was a guard in college, so they asked him to go in there and do it, and he did it. And I tell you, Kellen Moore really gave him his flowers after the game. But no, he is. Right now, you think about it with Will Clapp, he's out for the year. We know that now. Simpkins has a outstanding, better than not even average. He's got an opportunity right now to make this roster and be the backup to Eric McCoy. That's how well he played on Sunday, and now he's going to get a ton more reps because I can't see the team playing Eric McCoy a whole lot in the next couple of preseason games.
And it had been Kyle Hergel that had worked in at backup center as well, but as we mentioned early in camp, there were some issues with snaps between Clapp and Hergel both, so now you have Simpkins in there, and he's done very well. Obviously has that versatility playing guard, mostly in college. Last time he played center was 2023 when he was in college at NC Central. So, again, impressive performance by him to step in and perform the way that he did. And, we're just going to keep on watching how things go here with some of these players moving in and out as we're trying to figure out the depth and the rotations on that offensive line. For today's podcast, I was able to catch up with special teams coordinator Phil Galiano. Talked to him before the game on Sunday, and it's really hard to gauge when you're not able to go full live in practice, some of those roles on special teams, especially your gunners that are going to be going full steam ahead, and then your returners having to go, people are actually trying to tackle you and take you to the ground. Somebody that I think we both agreed on that stood out was Velus Jones Jr. as we talk about him, the punting battle, and then your kickers. Here's my conversation with Galiano. Coach, thanks for joining me on the New Orleans Saints podcast. We have one game behind us now, so you finally get a chance to see what things look like going full live. I know you talked about that going into that game. It's kind of tough to gauge in special teams. So just overall, how do you think the guys did on Sunday?
You know what? I was really pleased overall. The thing I was most pleased about is we talked about being able to play fast and physical, and I really thought we did a really good job of that. I thought our guys were really flying around. We made some really big plays, had some big hits, took the ball away, had a couple big returns. So I was really pleased with how the guys responded to being challenged to go play fast and physical.
You mentioned that you have so many options in the return game and even on special teams as far as the gunners and what you want to do in those roles. Do you feel like, and you don't have to give away any secrets right now, but you feel like you had some answers coming out of that game?
I think we have some guys that put themselves in good position right after they went and performed and got a chance for everyone to see it. And we're trying to build the best team that we can, and that's going to be whether they're an offensive and defensive player in a role there and then a special teams player. And so, it's a combination of guys going out there and doing their job on offense, defense, and special teams, and guys who go and do that and show up in the game, and the head coach shows the video of them making big plays in the game. That always helps their chances.
Somebody that stood out in special teams roles and even offensively, he's a running back, but he had a lot of receptions in the game, is Velus Jones Jr. And I think for players that aren't as familiar with the team, it would have been impressed by his play on Sunday. How much does that benefit a player to pop in so many different ways?
I think it's really a big deal for him. Not only was he able to go and show what he could do offensively, but you put on special teams, and he obviously had the kick returns. He had 2 nice returns. He goes down there on his own gunner, and he's ready to make a play when the guy muffed the ball in that situation. So he showed his versatility, he showed his willingness, and so I think that benefits him a lot.
At the end of the game, we were able to see Charlie Smith get in, hit a 50-yarder. Good for him. He struggled at times throughout camp, but in a game situation, he comes in and delivers. What did you like about his approach and just his ability to kind of stay focused and locked in there?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I knew he was going to go out there and make it. I know he's had a couple misses in training camp and battled through those, and he's working at it, and he's trying to perfect his craft. And so we had full confidence, and I think, the way Kellen handled the situation so that we can get down there, use the timeout, and get him a field goal attempt for his confidence, I knew he'd go make it, and that was a big deal. I'm really happy for him.
I talked to Blake Grupe before we came to Irvine, and he said he hated kicking out here on this field because of the wind. And it is really windy every day. It's hard to gauge what it is going to be like. But how does that maybe benefit a kicker to kind of be out here in the elements and try to figure that out? Yeah,
I think it is a big deal. We go and we play at Buffalo, and there's a good chance it's going to be really windy there. So, when you're kicking at home and you're in the dome, those conditions are easy. And I just think the wind out here being different and picking up presents more of a challenge for them, and it's a way to work. And that's why some of the misses are okay in practice, because we're trying to figure out exactly where we want to aim our target and that sort of thing. So I do think it's a big deal, and I'm pleased we have it.
For you, from game 1 to game 2, what do you want to see from the players? Does it change at all?
The way we're going to approach the game doesn't change. We have a standard here of how we play special teams, and the standard's a standard. I told the guys that, and I expect us to go out there and play fast and play physical and be flying around. I would like us to, we had a couple substitution things where guys were late. I want to get that cleaned up. That's unacceptable. And then, we had 2 penalties in the game, and we want to play penalty-free. So we're looking to make an emphasis on that, be 100% on our substitutions. We want to play the game penalty-free. And then there were a couple maybe mistakes or plays wish guys could have had back that other people don't see, right? Maybe it was just a block that was insignificant, but we're going to work and practice that. And I'd like to see those guys make those corrections, go get that improved, and that'll be good for them and for us.
The way that preseason is now, the cuts aren't until the very end. Does that help you being able to evaluate players longer, especially when you're kind of looking at those guys to fill out the end of the roster that help you on special teams?
I definitely think it helps us and it benefits us. It gives us, used to when you'd go play the last preseason game, you had cut downs already, so you were short on bodies, and some of those guys were playing all the snaps on defense and playing on special teams. So it gives us a couple more bodies now, and I think it just gives you another live evaluation to help make difficult decisions, and that's very challenging. There's guys that are like right on the border. Are they going to make it or are they not going to make it? So the more opportunities that they're given in game situations, it helps us make educated decisions.
How about that punting battle? You still have the 2 going at it. How would you evaluate what they did on Sunday and areas that you're still looking for out of a punter that's going to make the team?
Yeah, look, I think the situations were a little bit different for each guy of where they punted the ball on the field. I think both of them would tell you that they weren't happy with their performance and it wasn't good enough. And so I'm excited that we're going to go and we're going to have a punt day tomorrow where both guys are going to punt, and it's an improvement or a chance for them to improve and get better. And then we'll have another opportunity in the game for them. And I'm just looking for those guys to go compete and show that one of them wants to take the job and become our punter.
How much does it change for them being out here versus an indoor element?
There's a difference. There's definitely a difference. I mean, when you feel this wind like this, right? I mean, it's hard to punt into the wind. So we'll try to use the wind to our advantage. But that may be, more challenging for one than the other, because maybe one punt's better to the right, the other punt's better to the left, but you can only punt one way when it's windy like this. But again, we may go play in a game where there's strong wind and they have to be able to go execute. So I think it's really good for them to get the practice in as well.
How much are you enjoying the new role here for you?
I love it. I think it's been awesome. I really do. I enjoy, the thing I'm most pleased about is just how these guys come to work every day. It's fun to coach them. It's fun to go watch them play on Sunday, and I was so proud of how they competed and how they flew around. And, we go in and have meetings, and it's fun, our meetings. I get to be up in front and run the meetings, and we have open discussions and conversations and have a good time with it, so I'm loving it. I think it's been great.
It was a lot of fun to see everybody back on the field on Sunday in a game atmosphere, competing out there. So looking forward to the next one, and I appreciate the time.
You got it. Thank you. Looking forward to it as well.
Appreciate Phil for that time. He did say that they are going to be punting tomorrow, so we'll get to break down that battle a little bit in tomorrow's practice. It is Wednesday right back here on the campus of UC Irvine. Again, late afternoon, 4 o'clock on the West Coast. That's 6 o'clock back home. So stay tuned before you go to bed. Check into NewOrleansSaints.com, and we'll have the podcast, everything you need to know from practice and Graff's observations. And we are still waiting to find out details of that joint practice with the Rams, potentially on Thursday. They're working through logistics still, but it is still on the table, and we'll let you know as soon as we hear anything definite on that for Thursday. But thanks so much for tuning in to the New Orleans Saints podcast. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to the New Orleans Saints podcast presented by Rouse's Markets. Join us 3 times per week on NewOrleansSaints.com, the Saints mobile app, or you can download the podcast on iTunes. We'll see you next time, right here on the New Orleans Saints podcast, presented by Rouse's Markets.